Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome everybody to the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. This week, Clash at the Castle in Glasgow. Scotland is the home of this next installment of Clash at the Castle. The PLE that only had one other installment back in 2022. One hell of a show that was, where Drew McIntyre fell just short of dethroning Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal title. But he gets redemption, potentially, this weekend in Glasgow. Home crowd taking on Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight title, along with yours truly to do this show, this PLE prediction show, the one, the only Josh Isenberg 4. Happy to have him back after he did not get to participate in the previous, the Double or Nothing show, and I don't believe he did King and Queen of the Ring either. So it's nice to have him back into the fold for this PLE prediction show. Love having Josh on the program. As always, follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. You can find the Juice Box on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, juicysteen.podbean.com, and now on Spotify as well. And if you listen to it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts through iTunes, please leave a rating and review. Give it a 5-star review. It really helps the show grow each and every time that happens. Additionally, go to YouTube at Juicy Steen. Find the RSS feed. Get every single episode of the Juice Box right there for everybody to listen to every single week. It comes through directly from the feed. Couple other little notes before we dive into the PLE predictions of Clash at the Castle with myself and Josh Isenberg. You can also follow him at Josh Isenberg 4 on Twitter. Of course, we just had the second episode of Who Killed WCW airing on Vice. I thought it was a very, very interesting episode, and hopefully everybody got to check out the post-show analysis done by yours truly, Ellis, Andrew Baydala, and Corey over at Final Bell Media. You can check out on Twitter at Final Bell Media and on YouTube at Final Bell Media as well. Additionally, we have a SIP series lined up. The interview has not happened yet, but it is in the works. Of course, it is getting ready to get recorded here in a few days, hopefully not too longer than that, but however long it takes, honestly. I'm looking forward to this interview. I'm not going to reveal who it is yet until we have a date set in stone. But outside of that, keep up with the Twitter at Juicy Steen. Figure out what's going on in the world of pro wrestling and the Juice Box. If you have any questions or comments or want to just talk WCW and anything else pro wrestling related, I am the guy to talk about it with. So without further ado, the Juice Box PLE predictions for Clash at the Castle, Scotland. Right here with myself, Josh Isenberg, here in the Juice Box. And welcome. We are inside the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, of course, for the Clash at the Castle PLE prediction show. It's been a while, but he's back. He's better than ever. And no, it's not Eric Bischoff. It's a little bit of a bigger get here on the Juice Box. The one, the only Josh Isenberg. How you doing, Josh?
Juice, I am ready to go. I am ready to talk Clash at the Castle, another international PLE. I'm ready to roll, baby. A pretty good card. Again, we've seen in the past handful of months, past year or two with H, you get, 5-6 matches, which still ends up being a good 3.5 hours. And I think they're going to deliver here with might be some surprises sprinkled in Glasgow.
Ooh, where apparently there aren't any castles, but they're calling it Clash at the Castle. And oddly enough, it seemed like Drew McIntyre, we'll get to it, of course, but Drew McIntyre last time Clash at the Castle seemed like a, quote, hometown event. This is a hometown event for Drew McIntyre this time around, so we will dive into that. As always, follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen, Josh at Josh Isenberg 4 on Twitter. 5 matches, a clean, concise card. All matches are for titles, which is interesting. Normally, maybe you won't get that outside of, Night of Champions. But here, Clash of the Castle, like you said, man, the Paul Levesque era is just hitting on all cylinders with these international PLEs. I really, really hope, though, that they do not just do all of the chants that happened in France. It was a great time in France and Lyon, but one and done. I don't need to hear the after 2, potentially 3 count reverberate after every single near fall the entire night. How about you? I thought it was good, but I'll take it for one show.
Yeah, I'm good for one show. It's fun. It's a good atmosphere. The AJ Styles chant I thought was pretty good. But yeah, I'm excited because I think, we saw Clash at the Castle in 2022, an electric crowd that had over 50, 60,000. This one's a lot smaller venue. But sometimes those smaller venues, as we've seen at Backlash last year in Puerto Rico, this past year in France, sometimes that 10 to 15,000 crowd feels more at home, right? And I think that the UK crowd will do their chants, but at the same time they're going to let the match kind of breathe and let the fans at home enjoy it, aside from not hijacking but making themselves a bigger part of the show. But it's interesting because when I watched Clash at the Castle last week, just going back, it's amazing to think, McIntyre coming out with his Broken Dream song at first, having an opportunity, and I know we'll talk about this later on in the juice box. He was one of the maybe 2 or 3 guys that I thought had a legitimate shot at dethroning Roman during his tenure. The other one, very small chance, but I thought Jey Uso had a chance at SummerSlam, and then obviously Cody, who was the guy to dethrone Roman. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great crowd. It's at 2 p.m., not 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. or Hell Elimination Chamber was at 5 a.m. I think we woke up with. It was a long time. But 2 p.m. on a Saturday, buckle up, baby. It's going to be a good show.
That's right. And we got 5 matches, 2 hometown potential winners here. I think it's going to play into maybe the finishes more often than not, but the crowds are going to be electric, I think, the entire night. Let's kick things off. This is an interesting one. Triple threat rules, tag team titles on the line for the women. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Same gear, no unique name yet. I have not seen a name for them being penned. Versus Alba Fire and Isla Dawn and the other team of Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, which pretty interesting that Zoe Stark, I'm thrilled that she is still stuck around. I think her big moments happened, later last year with the Trish Stratus of it all. But now in a tag team with Shayna Baszler, we have a triple threat match here. This could be a way to get the titles off of Jade and Bianca. 1, do you like that they have matching gear but no similar unified name? And 2, do they lose the titles here, beginning a potential rift as we move towards SummerSlam later on this year?
Yeah, I think for both of those questions, 1, the gear is great. They look like superheroes, like they've told us on television every single week. That's right. And I think that they're doing a really good job at slow rolling in Jade Cargill with, adding her and Bianca Belair together. I don't necessarily need a name. I think with WWE, they sometimes come up with names that are just ridiculous. So
what do you
I don't
mean? Y2AJ?
Exactly. Yeah. The Jericho. Yeah. All that wonderful stuff.
Jericho. Yeah. All with Jericho. What the hell's going on?
I know. I have no idea. But I think this match is interesting because I like the triple threat match. I think Alba and Isla, aside from Monday Night Raw, whenever Alba Fire tapped out to Shayna one night after Shayna got knocked out, didn't do them much justice. And then you see Shayna and Zoe look like 2 legitimate badasses. Neither of them have had much success since last year, right? Whenever you saw Shayna defeating Ronda Rousey and then Zoe Stark splitting off from Trish Stratus. I think Jade and Bianca retain the championships here, and I think it's just because I still don't see money or time invested in the other 2 tag teams, and that could be something that hurts Jade and Bianca because they're trying to put together a women's tag team division, but there's not really, aside from Isla and Alba, who just aren't there yet because they haven't been utilized since coming up from NXT. There's just nobody credible enough to beat Bianca and Jade. So I think Bianca and Jade retain. I think they continue to be tag team champions. I think they go into SummerSlam tag team champions. Maybe they face Damage Control. I think that's the only, viable threat that they could potentially have, a team that's already won tag team gold before. But at the end of the day, I think Jade and Bianca are just getting started, and breaking them apart so quickly just for a potential match at SummerSlam is just rushing a little too much for my taste.
You have great taste, so I can agree with that for sure. I think you made a great point, though. And unfortunately, it seems like this has been continuous since the titles were debuted. How many women's tag teams are established, for a long enough time to where it's believable that Jade and Bianca get dethroned? Because even though Bianca and Jade kind of just happened, not out of nowhere, but WrestleMania, boom, tag champ, like they could make it happen. They're two stars, they're established now. Jade is established now, Bianca, of course. And the other four women, Shayna has had the most success out of the four outside of Zoe being involved with the Trish Stratus thing. But more or less, they're like some of the men's tag teams where they're just thrown together for the sake of creating a tag team. Yeah. And I agree. I think if Bianca and Jade were to split up and have that match, I think SummerSlam is too early. Not sure when that happens. You got WrestleMania next year. You don't have to put it out at a huge event, but if you really have these two hold the titles for a while and make it worth them splitting up to create a huge match, then I think they got to retain and just keep on keeping on.
Yep, absolutely. And it's going to just depend on really who they can build to face them, because I think not every PLE, but the big ones, SummerSlam being one of them, you can't have either of those off of the card. So I want to know what's next. And I think this is just a quick, a pit stop, getting Alba and Isla on the card, and obviously Zoe and Shayna, who, for lack of a better term, have just been not utilized or not felt credible, even though they're two legit tough gals that can fight. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward. But yeah, I completely agree with everything you say there.
Do you think that there is that the only thing that bothers me, and I think that there could be some sort of change happening, is that it's a triple threat. Like Jade and Bianca don't have to get pinned here, and that's not to say that it's gonna happen, but that type of booking leads to potential avenues of they don't got to get pinned. A mistake can be made either way. So do you think that leaves a little bit of a chance there for wiggle room to potentially have it taken away? Do you think they're considering that, even though we agree we don't think it should happen, but do you think they're already setting up like, hey, let's do this? Because to me, they are holding these tag titles, and as soon as they lose them, it loses all its cachet.
All its cachet up the yin yang. Yeah. I don't, just because of the teams that they're facing. The tag titles for them can go on different shows, and I don't necessarily think that Shayna, Zoe, Isla, or Alba are ready to potentially, be spotlighted on two shows in 1 week. And it's it just comes down to, they have so many women on the roster, but they've really only focused for the women's tag team division, but they've only focused on those two, which I understand. They deserve all of the spotlight because they're just head and shoulders more interesting and better presented than everybody else. And that's it's sometimes even talking about the women's champions, with aside from Liv with her thing with the Judgment Day, it even kind of overshadows at times Bayley being the champion. So it's just an interesting dynamic, I think, in the women's division. They have so many women, but again, all the time is allotted only to maybe 3 or 4, where you actually view them as credible threats or credible champions.
Yeah, it seems like time is just ticking away until Charlotte gets back, and then it's just her division again, Isn't that funny how it's almost like everybody's a little bit of a placeholder to an extent until the stalwarts get back, and then you can have more, legacy performers, for lack of a better term, the girls that have been there for 5-6 years. Yeah. They can carry the division, and that's where you get a challenger to come up have some longevity and move forward. Because, I mean, this, I think, is just a stopgap. We'll talk about Bailey here in a moment, because I think the Money in the Bank is going to really start shifting where the women go and who's next in line,
Yeah.
if you will. So let's tackle that. Bailey defending her WWE Women's Championship against Scotland's own Piper Niven with Chelsea Green. So I like
Chelsea.
see that's the thing.
You gotta do better.
Yeah,
Chelsea. Yeah.
Chelsea. I'm better at doing Ludwig Kaiser. I like Chelsea and Piper as a tag team. That's the problem. They should have been in a tag team potentially in this match against Bianca and Jade. They, I feel, out of any of the teams that aren't champions, are established. But I really enjoy having Piper getting this huge moment. I don't think she'll win, but to get this moment against Bailey in her home country for the women's title, I think it's a huge deal. Piper Niven has been around for, honestly, quite a bit of time in the grand scheme of WWE, and it's cool that she's finally got away from the dewdrop thing and all the shenanigans that we've seen before, taken a little bit more seriously now. And I like the matchup against Bailey. I think it poses a challenge for Bailey. However, I think Bailey gets a great match from Piper, but ultimately retains her championship. What say you? Does the Scot take it in Scotland?
So my heart says no. My head says yes. And I think, so I put it like this. I'm looking at all of these champions, and you can't have every PLE, every Raw SmackDown without a title change. And I don't think Liv drops the title. I don't think the IC championship, obviously not being defended here. Or, I'm sorry, it will be defended here. We'll talk about that, which that could change. But WWE does a really good job at making sure that champions have longevity in their reigns. I could see Bailey losing this match. Piper gets her moment. And then at SummerSlam, somehow, some way, Bailey faces two larger-than-life opponents in Piper Niven and Nia Jax.
Wow.
Making that a triple
wouldn't that
threat.
be crazy?
Yeah, and it would be a great opportunity for WWE to say, hey, Bailey lost, but she's coming back. She's going to potentially beat two big, massive women in one night. And I feel like that gives her more power, or more, star power, credibility, whatever you want to call it, if she can overcome two obstacles instead of just overcoming, Io, even though obviously Damage Control was a part of that entire storyline. But if they want to have a triple threat match, I don't think that's a bad way to go, booking it down for the next 2 months. Is Bash in Berlin before that?
Bash in Berlin. Okay, so SummerSlam is the 3rd of August, but Bash in Berlin, I think, is the end of August.
Okay, so SummerSlam's the next one after this. So
after
I can
Money
honestly,
in the Bank.
I'm sorry, yeah, after Money. Yeah, that's right, Money in the Bank. Yeah, So I think like you can do something where, I mean, hell, even you can get these women in a Money in the Bank ladder match, say Bailey or whoever, if they decide to drop the title, because Money in the Bank does a really good job at putting people in matches that are important if they either have a storyline or if they don't have a storyline, or they can extend a storyline for a match at SummerSlam. I'm going to say Bailey wins, but I kind of want Piper to win to shake things up a little bit on that SmackDown roster. And what fun would it be if her and quote Chelsea Green were the quote women's WWE Women's Champion? I just think that is a curveball that WWE could potentially invest in, and they did a great job last week for the first time letting Piper talking about Piper's background. So if not now for Piper, I don't know when, and why not in Scotland? I just, I think there's a really good opportunity for them to do two things: establish Piper as a credible threat, as a champion, and then how does Bailey overcome the odds once again? Because Bailey is somebody who is better as a chaser than a champion, and we've seen that her way up to NXT against Sasha Banks, and then also obviously her way into WrestleMania against Io Sky.
You put it very well. 2 points. I'm kind of the reverse. My heart wants Piper Niven to win, but I feel as if Bailey will. And secondly, if you've been watching the Who Killed WCW doc on Vice, episode 2, Kevin Nash says, and the funniest part, he has been lying and telling the truth this entire time. So he's really calling it down the middle as Kevin Nash only can. But he says, and I think this is a very solid point, pretty much almost 100% across the board in the history of wrestling with this. The babyface is always more successful. You make more money, et cetera, when they're chasing after the title. He even says, have them win the title and then bang, take it away from them because there's so much more money. So I can agree with that. I think Bayley could lose here. No worry in losing to a competitor like Piper Niven in her home country. Bayley's going to be the underdog here. I mean, even so, I know in France they did the Bayley, UK chant that is so well done over there. I don't know if you'll get that, or if you do, it's going to be drowned out because Piper's the hometown girl. I think I'm actually gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna say Piper Niven finishes the story here at Clash at the Castle. And takes the WWE Women's title. And if not for anything else, it's just something different. How many times Bayley's won? All the 4 horsewomen have had so much success. We were talking about Bianca and Jade finally, them getting a moment, but the other 4 probably aren't doing much. Let's have Piper Niven. Why not? Why not give her the moment? And I think she's earned it. I think she's come a long way and fought through a lot of BS creatively. And to get to this point, so I think Piper could take it here.
Yep, I agree.
Let's move into some more here at Clash at the Castle. This, we're talking about crowds, Josh, and regardless of how electric it will be the whole night, I honestly think outside of the main event and what we'll get to in prediction-wise with the main event, I believe this following match will have the biggest crowd pop moment of the entire show. Sami Zayn defends the Intercontinental title against Chad Gable with Otis, Akira Tozawa, and Maxine Dupree on the outside with Chad Gable, supposedly to help Alpha Academy grow. But you got to be honest, it's been building for weeks. Otis has been so close to standing up to Chad Gable, but he just can't do it. But 2 weeks ago, he briefly got in the way of Chad Gable, and the whole roof almost came off the building. If Otis, if somehow Chad Gable gets close to this, loses the match, he gets pissed at Otis, and Otis finally socks Chad Gable or hits him with a belly-to-belly, I think you're going to get an unbelievable response from the crowd, and we will move forward with a character-driven babyface Otis. Sami Zayn, I think, retains this thing. What say you, Josh?
Yeah, I'm going to go Sami retaining. The only thing I could think of potentially if Chad becomes Intercontinental Champion is what happens next. And this is the perfect opportunity for him not to win and potentially I could actually, to be honest with you, I could see something like a referee bump where he instructs Otis to help him and Otis actually costs him. When I'm thinking about this feud, when I'm thinking about, the Alpha Academy and Sami Zayn, it is interesting because I almost want Sami to win and Otis not to turn, but somehow, some way in the coming weeks, maybe at Money in the Bank, whatever, Otis becomes Intercontinental Champion. And Gable has this brewing jealousy that I couldn't get the job done, but you did. And it causes kind of a riff within Alpha Academy of, okay, Otis is the champion. Shouldn't he be the guy leading Alpha Academy? So there's a lot on the bone in this, whatever way they go. But I do think you can't have Sami Zayn drop the title after defeating Gunther at WrestleMania.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet, in 2 or 3 months. So I think what they do is they give Sami they keep the title on Sami Zayn, but also there's got to be something bigger than just a turn where Alpha Academy feels more important. So it's a tough one. They have a lot of options, a lot of avenues to go about, but I would love to see Otis be the one to beat Sami and have that dissension within Alpha Academy down the road. So in that theory, in my thought process, I think Sami wins. and maybe not, Otis. Maybe Otis accidentally hits him and Sammy wins, whatever the case may be. But I think whatever happens, the Alpha Academy costs Chad Gable the match, and Sami Zayn retains.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't that already recently happen? Where Otis like accidentally hit Gable on the outside in another match?
Yeah, wasn't that was that when it was Sami and Gable at on a Monday Night Raw?
Oh,
was that the one in Canada, maybe?
Was it Sammy, Chad, and Bronson at
Saudi? Crown Jewel. Yeah,
yeah,
or not Crown Jewel, King and Queen of the Ring. Yeah.
King. So I think that I think that already kind of happened, but I will play off what you're saying. Maybe because the whole rumor and how it's been kind of played, although I feel like it hasn't been mentioned recently. Chad Gable had been kind of working potentially with the Creed brothers.
Yeah.
Yep. So maybe there's a way where, I don't know, Otis could cost him, but then you get the Creeds to beat him down. Something like that. Cause I think the whole thing is Chad and Otis are going to split their separate ways. Yeah. I don't know if that means Otis goes with Sami Zayn and collectively try to fight off Chad Gable or the Creeds. I don't know if Tozawa somehow gets presented seriously in this. But like you said, there's a lot of avenues, and we say this all the time here on the Juice Box. Us not being able to predict it this easily is better for the programming as a whole.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I think we're both in agreement. Sami Zayn retains the Intercontinental title. 2 matches remain. We've got an I Quit match, the undisputed WWE title, Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. I don't believe we're going to see anything near the Rock Mankind I Quit match, nor do I think we're going to see the Terry Funk Ric Flair I Quit match here between these two guys. I think you're going to get a little bit more of a pure wrestling match. But once we get into the I Quit portion, this is where it becomes interesting. Even as a little 12-year-old Mark, Judgment Day 2005, I was seriously saying, I can't see John Cena saying I quit, and there's no way JBL's saying I quit. So to me, I don't think Cody's going to say it. I don't think he's going to lose the title just yet, and I don't think AJ's going to pull off, recording his voice. And AJ Styles, he almost said I quit a couple weeks ago, but that's how we got to this match, by him faking his retirement, a la Mark Henry. So Josh, I ask you, sure, we could pick who wins, but how do you think this I Quit happens? What type of scenario? Let's assume Cody wins here. How is AJ Styles going to quit here?
That's a good question, because typically with I Quit matches, you have a person who does a submission move. Or like The Rock with, But, man, this is a tough one for me. I don't know what move Cody has in his arsenal that can make, a submission I Quit to AJ Styles. Man, this is really tough. I'm not sure how they go about this. But, I mean, there's no way Cody loses the match. No. I don't think they do a fake I Quit, where he records his voice and things like that, circa, Rock and Mankind.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But, yeah, it's interesting to me, because the entire storyline is predicated on AJ basically saying he was going to quit and leave. That's right. And if he says I quit here, I don't know where AJ goes from here. Because they're just starting to cook up him and Gallows and Anderson back together. So, man, this is a curveball to me. I don't have an answer. I hate to say that, wow. But I can't think of a way, and it's tough. It's a tough one, but Cody wins somehow, some way.
You did say submission, and I always try to think of, well, what type of weapon could they use? Could Cody get AJ Styles in some sort of choke crossface thing with a bull rope, a la, Dusty? Or other than that, when we saw the quote unquote I'm retiring thing with AJ, he hit the Styles Clash off of the freaking steps to the floor, like the most ridiculous bump you can take. I think it's going to take something to where Cody has AJ in a predicament where, if I don't quit, I could be in some serious, serious trouble. Yeah. Because I recall that Cena and Batista too, and he like threw him off a car. There's a
Yeah.
lot of different avenues that they could go here. I said car in an avenue. That's fun.
Ah, look at
Um,
you.
hey, look at me.
On Jabroni
But
Drive.
that's right. Um, so the only thing I'm gonna say in this is if AJ quits here, I don't know how they tie it all together, but I really do. I really do think that there is a, better than 50% chance that with this entire not really blurring the lines, it's a wide open, not so forbidden door between WWE and TNA.
Yeah.
Maybe AJ Styles just goes away for a little bit, and maybe he shows up back where he started, well, outside of WCW, which is closed. But um, I don't know. I think that, Slammiversary, you got Bound for Glory, I guess, would be later in the year. I think AJ Styles could be taking some time away from WWE. And then this could be the vehicle to get him there. But I like you, I don't know how he's going to say it, but I think AJ Styles is going to say, I quit here. I don't think it's time for Cody. The
Yeah.
other thing, I will put a caveat here. Although it's been kind of hinted at for Monday, where do you see, I guess we could just kind of riff whether it involves Cody, Priest, McIntyre, or whatever title. Do you have any theories, not Austin theories, on what's going to happen with this Uncle Howdy thing come Monday? Do you think it's going to be perfectly, like, immediately integrated into a world title storyline, or how do you see that shaking out? Because it seems like it'll happen on Monday.
Yeah, I think, man, that's a good one. I don't know what they're going to integrate with because obviously you want to have some sort of connection to Bray Wyatt. But if you integrate them in the World Championship picture, and we'll talk about what's going to happen with Priest and McIntyre, man, if I'm them, it's difficult because you're going to have a group of individuals come in.
Yeah.
Who do they target? You're not going to target McIntyre because he's a heel, unless you want this group to be heels, which they're going to get cheered, right? They're going to have that intrigue and they're going to have that respect of this stable living on for Bray Wyatt. So it's difficult to say they're going to attack Drew and Drew's going to go with Punk because I think Punk's pretty close to being back. If they go to the Judgment Day have kind of been, well, they've tried to in a way, I guess, heel versus heel for a world title doesn't happen often. I think Priest gets a better reaction now than the other members of Judgment Day. So do they make Judgment Day, I guess, more face as time goes on? I think that's the best opportunity for them is to target the Judgment Day.
But what you're saying, you are in agreement. You think that it will be, because you've only listed anybody in the world title picture. You don't think they go anything less than that?
I just don't know who else on Monday Night Raw they could go after. They're not going to go after Sammy.
It could happen on Raw, but we don't know if that necessarily means that it has to stay on Raw. And I know that sounds kind of convoluted, but they made it seem like Monday is the day. That's all.
Yeah. I think Monday's I understand what you're saying on that. Yeah, I think that they get to a world, not necessarily them competing for a world title, but integrating themselves in a main event / world title picture. So, well, and I'm trying not to spoil who I think is going to win the main event, but let's just say that I think Drew McIntyre wins the title. Then Judgment Day is going through their own stuff. And this group comes out because from what we know, there's 3 men and potentially, a Nikki Cross or Alexa, whatever, that are going to be involved. So you have 4 there. Are they really going to target somebody else that's somebody that's a world champion, whether it be Drew or Damian? I don't know. So I guess I have to spoil it because I think Drew's going to win, and I'll tell you why. But I think they go after Judgment Day. And I think it's because there's so many cracks in Judgment Day right now where we're getting towards the end. And when you saw Damian Priest talk about he doesn't need the Judgment Day to win.
That's right.
And he's not going to have them at ringside. Nope. And I saw the fact that, JD and Finn Balor kind of looked at Damian when he said that on Monday. That was an inkling to me that, okay, Damian might split off in the next couple of months to go by himself. But Uncle Howdy and the group need more than one person, and there's just not another stable. that has been, I guess, consistent, and there's not another stable over as much as the Judgment Day in WWE.
So you don't think, like, I don't know how else to phrase it, but do you think it would be less than if, look, even if the goal eventually for Uncle Howdy or however they're going to integrate them, whether the group, one guy or girl, however, do you think it's less than if they come in and just take out this mid-carder or someone, even if it leads to picking the bones of a Judgment Day who's hurting right now or going after a champion immediately? Do you think they're just going to like seep into the roster and kind of just take people and pick them out one by one? Or, is that less than for them? You think people are just expecting them to be in a world title picture immediately?
It's not less than if they don't, but I think it doesn't have as big of an immediate impact if they do, if that makes sense. So like, I don't see any of the members of this new faction coming in and competing for a world title, but you can't have them, I mean, even Sami Zayn, I guess to an extent, could be somehow attacked, but I can't.
Right,
see
that's
it.
something.
But there's like no story, and that's the thing that's interesting to me is like whoever they come into, there's not really a story there.
Well, but we won't know the story until they're here. There's no story with a QR code. They have to make their debut, and then I'm sure they'll lay out like this is why, or whoever they attack. Maybe that'll start kicking up, a reason that we can all kind of conceive on our own.
Yeah, and I don't want them to be involved with Cody. I don't want them to be involved with, McIntyre, because I think McIntyre and Punk is so hot, even though, I mean, do you
remember?
Like
above them.
Yeah, and do you remember a time
they're gonna cheer Howdy? Go ahead.
Yeah, and do you really remember a time where somebody's been hurt for, let's just say, as long as Punk's been hurt, where the crowd is still chanting somebody's name, although he's not there every week. He's only there, once a month maybe, and hasn't been there in the past, month and a half. Drew's feud has to be with Punk at SummerSlam, and I think it has to be for the world title.
The only thing I can come up with is when CM Punk wasn't in WWE and he was still getting CM Punk.
Exactly. WWE. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So we'll table the Uncle Howdy thing. We can reassess in the weeks to come. Let's get into why we're all here. The crowd will be unhinged for this. Damian Priest defends his World Heavyweight title against Drew McIntyre. Who knows if we'll get Broken Dreams or some vintage gear, but I'm sure it will be badass, his entrance one way or the other. The Judgment Day, JD McDonough, Finn Balor, Mr. Key Card himself, and Dirty Dom Mysterio are barred. They're banned. You're banning me from ringside. They're banned from ringside. You said Punk. You said McIntyre's going to win. I've been back and forth on this. I am in the camp, and I know this is not really fun for the podcast, but I think McIntyre and Punk would be great for the title. I don't even think it needs the title, though. I'm fine either way. Unfortunately, in all of this, even though we'll probably get a blow-off Finn versus Damian Priest match, maybe at SummerSlam, it seems to me that he is the guy lost in all of this, even though he got the big moment at WrestleMania. Because Punk hasn't been there in how long? How I see it, I think Punk absolutely gets involved, considering the Judgment Day are banned from ringside. That being said, I can easily see something reminiscent of Money in the Bank 2011 with CM Punk and Cena, where they try to throw everything at Punk, and he still escapes through the crowd, his hometown crowd, blows a kiss to Vince McMahon as champion. I think Punk could try to do a similar thing, get involved. McIntyre wins the match anyway, and damn it, could he blow a kiss to Punk through the crowd? What kind of great storytelling would that be?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
I feel for Damian Priest here, but I think Drew McIntyre takes it in his hometown. How many times have you even said on this show, Mania with COVID? He had the Rumble moment, but then, WrestleMania with COVID. Then he didn't get the match with Lashley. He didn't win that. Then at Mania he wins, and then he loses it again. Here we are again. this the time? He didn't win at last Clash of the Castle. Is this his moment, Josh?
I think it has to be. I think you re-sign McIntyre with maybe not a guarantee, but hey, we're going to Glasgow. Let's get your moment. This is probably a bigger moment for him personally in his hometown than him winning at WrestleMania. Because he technically did win at WrestleMania, and people were excited about it, which lasted 5.5 minutes. So I think Drew wins. I think I don't know. It's funny because if it was anywhere else, I could see Punk coming out and costing him, and the crowd would love it. He's not going to come and I don't know. With CM Punk, I think that people love him, but he is not going to be cheered at all if he costs Drew the championship. And then maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's exactly what they want, because this is a one-time they're in Scotland and they come back to the States, and you have Money in the Bank in Toronto, then you have obviously SummerSlam in Cleveland, which is that North American crowd, which they'll always love Punk. Yep. But I don't know if you need Punk in this match. I think you can hold Punk off a little bit and have kind of Drew McIntyre as champion for more than 5.5 minutes to tease Punk until Punk's ready to come back. I mean, hell, what if you have Drew and Damian a repeat at Money in the Bank where Punk had his infamous moment with John Cena, and that's when Punk comes back, maybe after, Damian Priest loses again, maybe this time because of the Judgment Day. So, again, a lot like the other few matches we were talking about, Juice, they have options, and I think that's a great thing. Monday Night Raw, the past month, at least from my perspective, is lacking star power. Jay hasn't really done much. He came out and announced he wanted to be in the Money in the Bank match, and I'm sure he'll be the qualifying match. But aside from Jay and Drew, nothing against Damian, but they just don't have the star power that guys that have been injured and have been out like Punk and Seth have. Yeah. So I want to see Punk do something. I just don't know if there's a real smart way to do it in Scotland. I think sometimes you just have to let the moment be. You just have to let the moment happen and let Drew have his moment and go off the air without any controversy. Because, again, you're 4 weeks away from Money in the Bank, and you're 7 or 8 weeks away from SummerSlam. So there's still 2 big pay-per-views to capitalize, and it's okay to go off the air, like they did at, at King and Queen of the Ring with Cody winning, and that's it. So that's how I feel. But, again, you never know what's going to happen. They always like to try to throw something to – again, it's weekly television, so you have to throw something that you want to okay, I have to watch Raw to see this. But I think Drew winning in Scotland, that's enough for me to tune in on Monday and see what he has to say.
Absolutely. I just feel like Drew has been poking the bear of CM Punk without Punk even being there, and I feel like that's what's going to – it's not going to bite Drew in the ass, but it's going to get to a point of, hey, you won. Congratulations. I'm very happy you won. But just so you know, I'm here. I helped cost you this whole thing. Here's a question for you, Josh. Let's say Drew wins the title, and that's great. How does CM Punk get into a world title match at SummerSlam?
I think he just eggs McIntyre on.
Yeah?
And
I don't think anybody would have a problem with him just because, hey, wow, if we just piss off this guy, they'll just give us a title shot.
Well, I'm thinking, but I mean, how did McIntyre get this match? By just saying to Damian, I want a title match, basically.
Yeah, to be fair, he could call it a rematch clause.
But that's not a thing anymore in WWE. If it was, AJ would have had his rematch clause last month at King and Queen of the Ring. Gunther hasn't gotten his rematch from Sami Zayn.
Not yet.
Randy, not yet. True, yeah.
No, I know.
Well,
I
actually,
but I'm just trying to think of a creative way. Like, I don't see Punk being in Money in the Bank and winning it or anything. Like, how is it going to organically happen? Because let's say he gets the match and it's at SummerSlam. If that Money in the Bank winner is up in the air, who's to say they don't want to match with Drew and cash in ahead of time, a la Rob Van Dam? Yeah,
and also we're obviously this is my fault going back and remembering. Gunther has a world title match at SummerSlam.
That's right. We got a lot of interesting.
I don't know if you swear here, but son of a mother, we forgot about that, right?
That's true.
So now we think about going back, and I'm going to actually just maybe agree with what you said a few minutes ago. Drew and Punk at SummerSlam, doesn't need a title. So maybe they go the route of somehow, some way, Punk costs him the title, at in Glasgow. It's hard for me to think that Drew will go in there again
Another
and lose
moment.
again and lose another moment. It's kind of like a running sick joke against him now. It's like he can't get his moment no matter how hard he tries. But then Punk never got his WrestleMania moment, how hard he tried.
Right. And maybe, we can dive in the weeds with that. In these days, I feel like that's something that's very common to talk about. Like if Punk is backstage with Drew and being like, how else can we elevate this? Like I never got what I wanted and I might have never gotten it. Like, so who's to say you can't have the same thing? And we mentioned it earlier, even if Drew's not a true babyface in the sense of the word, because outside of against CM Punk, Drew McIntyre is a babyface. Everybody enjoys what he's got to say for the most part. He's just like a badass. He's like Diesel, and to me,
it's good comparison.
Thank you. So to me, maybe Damian Priest does hold on a little longer. And then, you want an easy way for Gunther to take the title. Unfortunately for Damian Priest, there you go. So I don't know. But again, we said it 1,000 times. The fact that it's so unpredictable with just in this match, we've mentioned the champion and the challenger, a guy who's off TV, and a guy who has a match already slated for SummerSlam, and it could be against whoever the undisputed WWE champion is or the World Heavyweight champion. There's so many factors. Oh, and Money in the Bank. Like, all these different factors are just, they're in the air. So we have no idea. We have no idea where they will all fall into place. But that's why we're here in the Juice Box discussing the wonderful world of professional wrestling. Before we head on out, Josh, last thoughts on Clash at the Castle in Glasgow.
Well, as you said, sometimes it's great that we can't predict what will happen because there's multiple good options. And I think that this pay-per-view, this PLE, gives us great options. There's not one, this has to be this way or it's going to fail. They have multiple ways, whether it's the IC title, whether it's, Bayley's match against Piper Niven, whether it's, the Cody and AJ, how that ends. It's good to be surprised, and it's good to not be able to predict everything down to the T, because I think that's what brings the magic of pro wrestling. So I'm excited to watch it. I'm going to be buckled in watching it, and I really do think that this pay-per-view, although, King and Queen of the Ring was less than a month ago. They're giving us a lot of pay-per-views in a row because of the PLEs in the international market, but those always feel special. And this is a really good opportunity to maybe not finalize stories aside from AJ, but continue stories. And I think that's what's going to drive them to Money in the Bank. The Money in the Bank ladder matches sell themselves. You can do continuations of storylines or feuds or, individuals that might not be on this card that can be in the Money in the Bank card, then potentially getting to a SummerSlam match. They have options to continue stories, and I think that's a great thing as we head into Clash of the Castle on Saturday.
Couldn't agree with you more, man. These international PLEs are just exciting to watch as a viewer who's seen how many pay-per-views, PLEs in the States or in Canada forever. I mentioned it when we were discussing WrestleMania. All 40 have been in North America. Only 2 have been outside of the United States. That first WrestleMania outside of North America is going to be something truly that we've never seen before. But I feel like it's going to be something that's going to be talked about for a very long time. Yep. And you're getting just subtle glimpses and hints of that as we've hit Puerto Rico. We're going to go to Toronto. Even in Saudi, there have been, better shows overall.
Yeah.
France, Glasgow. Like, we're just hitting all these. We're going to get Germany later this year. It's been rumored that Chile could get something soon. Delicious to meet you. So there's so many different intriguing places that WWE could and honestly are willing to and will probably go to as time moves on, especially here in the Paul Levesque era. So without any more rambling on by yours truly and the one and only Josh Isenberg, where you can find him on Twitter at Josh Isenberg 4. You can find me, Juice Springsteen at Juicy Steen on Twitter. This has been the Juice Box and the Clash at the Castle PLE prediction show with myself and Josh Isenberg signing off for this, but I'll be back next week with another edition reviewing this show and more right here on the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.